Welcome back to the Mulberry Book Drop. Hey, Bethany.
Hi, Sarah.
Guess what?
What?
We're in season 5.
I seriously can't believe it. I say that
know.
all the time at the beginning of our episodes, but it's true.
So crazy. Did you ever think that we'd get to a season 5?
I had hoped,
Yeah.
but I didn't necessarily know that it would happen.
It's cool. What a surreal moment.
Yeah. It was a successful test run. Let's keep going.
Right. For the next 5 seasons.
Woohoo!
Well, what you been up to? What do you want to talk about?
Well, I was curious if we could talk a little bit about what we started this year with, 2025. And it was that you and I both agreed we were going to work really hard to not finish books that we didn't want to finish.
We're working really hard to not finish books.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
But I'm curious, how is DNFing, as the cool kids say? How is that going for you?
This week or this year? No, I'm just kidding. I think I'm at is it weird to say I've been successful at DNFing this year? I think I've done 12 books so far.
That is, wow.
Yeah, all different genres.
Okay.
What about you?
I have officially DNF'd 5 books.
Oh.
Yeah.
Didn't make the cut,
They didn't make the cut.
It's okay.
But I have to say, I think we're both tackling it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And I made myself that little DNF graveyard where I could put the book and the reason why.
Yeah.
And I was laughing at some of my reasons because I looked at them real quick when we were getting ready for this. And one of them says the setup was not what I anticipated. Another one said, been there, read that. And the last one, I literally wrote down, I am not smart enough for this. Yeah.
That's
and
real.
the thing is, when I looked to see what did I read after, and I realized how much I was enjoying what I read instead.
Yeah.
It was worth it.
Yeah.
It was worth it. And I don't regret it. And I will say, we're not saying the titles because some of these books that I opted out of are very highly rated.
Yeah.
And I know people who have loved these books.
Right. Same. I quit them for different reasons. I wasn't enjoying the book. I didn't like the writing style, or it's not what I thought it would be. And there's really nothing wrong with that. But then strictly for historical fiction, I know it's fiction, but when an author changes the dates in the book of something to better fit the story, for me, that's just a no. I'm just I love it when historical fiction keeps up with the dates. So yeah, those are some of my reasons.
I'm really proud of us. How did you feel the first time that you closed a book and said, I'm not doing this?
To be honest, just because I feel like it was pretty early on in the year, the first time I was kind of disappointed in myself, especially because it was a popular book. But now I'm yeah, whatever. What about you?
I had the same reaction. I really had to think hard. Am I actually going to do this?
Yeah.
Because I did. I also felt really disappointed, but I legitimately loved the book that I read instead. And it just gave me so much freedom and the guilt went away.
Yeah. Well, guys, we are the people that will be the first ones to admit if you're not enjoying a book, unless you actually have to read it for school or work or whatever, put it down. And also it could be, like we've said before, it could be one of those things where maybe right book, wrong time. And you can always try to come back to it. So
I think that's why the notes are helping me.
Yeah.
Because it is one of those things where maybe one of these days when my head's a little more clear, that one I didn't feel smart enough for. Maybe someday I'll go back to it.
Yeah. Because guys,
maybe I won't. It's my choice.
Yeah. Bethany's really smarticle. So, I think you should come back to it. You're welcome.
You're so funny.
Yeah. Well, with season 5, we thought that it would be kind of cool to start off with a episode that is FAQ, which is frequently asked questions. We went to Facebook, we went to Instagram, and then we had a box set up in the library where patrons were able to submit questions that we could answer. And when we went into it, we were like, oh no, are we going to get enough questions to actually answer for an episode? And we did.
We also got a couple of love notes, so we just want to say thank you.
Yes. Very much appreciate.
You all are so sweet.
So sweet. And so with that, do you want to jump right in? Are you good
I'm ready.
with all right?
I'm ready.
I'm gonna ask you the first question.
Okay.
which is probably the lengthiest question, so you're welcome. But one of the questions that we got, and I believe it was off of Facebook, was how do you choose what books to keep, buy, and get rid of?
Ooh, okay, that's a really good question. Well, the easy part is buy, and that would be our director. She is fantastic. She always keeps up with like the book ordering, popular authors, bestsellers, those kind of things. But also, I know we've mentioned it before, but patron suggestions, as well as our suggestions and our coworkers, she really does take all of that into consideration when she's deciding what to add to our personal collection. And she does a great job, great job. The what to keep and what to get rid of is a little bit harder. We do have some stuff that unfortunately has to get retired because it has been so loved that it is literally falling apart. In that regard, sometimes we get really lucky, and when you guys bring us donations, we can replace things. So anytime we're able to do that, we try to do that. But sometimes we do just have to have a little ceremony and say goodbye and thank you. And that's always hard. But in terms of like the whole library, we do go through, we scan every single book, we check all of the information. And we at our location have to follow kind of like a 3-year rule because of our shelf space. So if it has not been physically checked out in 3 years, then it gets put into consideration to be what we call weeded. And, that usually at that point, you have to look and see, like, do other libraries have it? Is it part of a series? Is it a popular author? And so we take all of that into consideration when we decide what to take out of our collection. Now, if it gets taken out of the collection, don't worry. It goes into the Friends of the Library sale. And then that means you get the opportunity to purchase it for yourself. And then the money from those donations, the Friends of the Library uses that to put back into the library. So funding our summer programming, buying all of our, the public computers, those kind of things. So yeah, it's all just this like constant donation process almost, which is really cool to watch the whole thing pan out because, even when it has to leave our shelf at some point, hopefully it still finds a really good home. Yeah. I think, did I miss anything? That was the whole question, right? Oh, well, to keep. If it has the most checkouts, we do try to keep some of the classics and popular authors. So, usually to keep is pretty easy because when we're scanning, we can see that it's been checked out, a ton of times or, within the last couple of months or whatever. And those are definitely the ones that we always keep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, guys, I knew I picked the right person to answer that question. That was fantastic.
Thank you. Well, Sarah, one of the next questions that I saw, it was asking us, do you have a favorite way of tracking your reading?
Oh, for sure. And I know that we talk about it all the time. But my personal favorite is Goodreads. And I still use Storygraph that we talked about when we did our book tracking episode. But Storygraph I really only use for the stats part because it makes really pretty graphs and stuff. So I like to look at the graphs and it tells you like how many of like one genre that you've read. And I really enjoy that. But also does color coded of all the different things when you're reading. But yeah, Goodreads is still my top one. But I also have a lot of friends on Goodreads where on Storygraph I only have like 4. So I don't get to see as many books come across my feed. So what about you?
I have actually been leaning a little more toward the Storygraph.
Okay.
Like you, I think I am up to 6 friends now on there. So big deal.
Popular.
But it's the buddy reads. I really have been enjoying the buddy reads. I have one friend that we have done several together and it just kind of changes the reading experience for me. But because I have so many friends on Goodreads, that is the one that I do tend to default back to because I like to see sometimes what my friends are reading because it helps me help our patrons. It helps me choose things for myself. So I go back and forth between the two of those. And I have still been keeping my journal, not quite as much. Now the journal is a little bit more about the, why I haven't finished something or what my favorite books of the year were. Like I'm starting to change my journal a little bit so that it's almost more of a keepsake as opposed to like every single book that I've finished. So that's kind of where my tracking is at this point.
Nice. Okay, cool. All right. Well, next question. Someone asked, this This question could start a war. Just kidding. But it is, do audiobooks count as reading?
If I thought that I could scream yes without hurting all of you, I would. 100% absolutely audiobooks are reading. And I really was thinking about this, and I honestly believe that it comes down to, first of all, our time, right? A lot of us are spending time in the cars and doing things. And so you have to choose, like, do you skip work and stay home and read a book? Or do you listen to a book on your commute? I say listen to the book on the commute, probably the smarter option. But also, there are a lot of people in the world that are auditory learners. And so who are we to say that they shouldn't be allowed to enjoy the same book? And I notice even in my adult book clubs that we're almost like split in half with who prefers physical reading and who prefers audiobooks. Yeah. And the conversation still, everybody is getting all of that stuff. They're enjoying the books in these different ways. And it also adds to the conversation, like when you're talking about the narrators and, that kind of stuff. So do you think so?
Oh, absolutely. Because one, that I do enjoy a good audiobook. But it just, honestly, when I think of an audiobook, it makes me think of like when you were a kid and your teacher would read a story to you. Like I had a teacher, third grade. She was one of the best teachers ever. And every day after lunch, we would come in and every day we would listen to her read a chapter. And I'm like, it's kind of the same thing, but also like take into account, like audiobooks can be anywhere from 2 hours to 45 hours. So like you're still working, you're still listening, and you're still getting the book. It's just being read to you instead. And I do know some people that will have the book in front of them and listen to it at the same time. So it's reading. You're still getting the story. So until it's made into a TV show. You know what I mean?
And then you just get all of the versions.
Right.
Okay, Sarah. I forget how they sent this one in, but is the library fully funded by the city?
This was a Facebook question. Okay. And I thought it was a great question. And fun fact, I did a speech on this in college because I worked at the library when I took the speech class, and it was part of this. But actually, no, we receive money from the county and impact fees from the county. And if you want to know what impact fees are, Google it. Thank you. I'm going to make you guys work, okay? So yeah, that's really it. We're not fully funded by the city. So kind of cool. I said, we went to our director for this question just to make sure we didn't, mess up the answer for you. But that's it. All right, next question. And this one is strictly for you.
Okay.
Did Bethany ever learn to crochet?
Oh, I did. I'm still not a professional. I have never finished a blanket, but I can. I've learned how to make, they call it a magic ring. And so it's a really cool way to start like a small project. And I can now make a heart. You like crochet into the ring. And then when you pull it tight, it makes the shape of a heart.
Oh, cute.
And the magic ring is also the start to that tiny octopus that I make. You've seen the octopus.
Yep, still waiting for mine.
So proof. Sarah knows I can actually make an octopus now.
But still waiting for my octopus, but all right. I'm just kidding.
Okay. No pressure. Okay, Sarah, this one is probably my favorite question that I saw.
Okay.
I want you to be honest.
Okay.
Do you judge people based on the books they check out?
No, I don't judge the people, but sometimes I do judge the books if I've read the book. Does that make sense?
A little bit, but I think you should expand on it for the listeners because I work with you. So I know where you're going with this.
Okay. So when a patron checks out books and I've read the book, if I love the book, I usually say it's a great book. You'll love it. Well, I don't say you'll love it. I don't want to, tell people how they should feel. But if I don't like the book, I do hit them with I'm curious what you think.
Now you know her trick.
Yep. So that's true. So if I ever tell you I'm curious what you think about it, it's probably because I didn't enjoy the book, but it doesn't mean that the other person isn't going to, because we could read the same book. I could love it. You could hate it for different reasons. So what about you?
So I loved this question. I do not judge the books that you guys check out. I do not judge you based on your books. I know what I read and I know what people might be thinking about me. And so that's fine. To each their own. But what I love about the books is that they allow me a connection with the patrons. And because of some of the books you guys have checked out and the conversations that those checkouts can potentially start, we have literally made friends with people at the library. We look forward to you coming in, and we look forward to those conversations. And it's really fun to meet each other through those books.
Right.
And I'm kind of like Sarah too, where sometimes if someone's checking out a book by an author, but like it's not my favorite one by that author, I usually turn it into the like, oh, well, if you like their writing style, let me know, because there's some other ones by them that are like really great. And so because sometimes like maybe the story's not the greatest, but you like the flow and the pacing and the writing style, and then we can direct you toward one that's maybe a little better. So,
Yeah.
So it's not a judgment about the person who's checking it
Right.
out. It's more about like the author or
Yeah.
or the series, whatever. So, it's a fun conversation.
It really is. That's one of my favorite conversations is having with people is if they were reading a book or when they come back and they're like, oh, I didn't enjoy that. And I'd be like, oh, me either. You want to talk about it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I mean, like we don't always read things because we just assume that we read because we're curious. We read for escape. We read for it. It doesn't mean that I'm about to go to some secluded island and do some terrible thing. Like, I just want to read a mystery and see if I can solve it.
Yeah.
Like, no judgment.
Yeah. So fun.
Yep.
All right. Well, this one I feel like you have a really good rule for. So I'm going to ask it. Is there a limit for how many books you can take?
My official policy is as many as you can carry.
Yes. And she says it.
At least once per shift.
Yep. Yep.
We get that question at the desk all the time. You can get 2 video games at a time, 10 movies at a time, but those books, get those book arms ready. I mean, we have watched some of our little kid patrons walking out with just like armloads. I don't even know how they're carrying it, and I love it.
Yep.
It's my favorite. Okay, this one also came from one of our younger friends, and it made us chuckle. But Sarah, how long do you have to stay at the library?
So I'm going to tell you the answer, but I would like to say that a lot of the younger kids think that we live at the library. And it's always been that way. I don't know if they think that we have like bunk beds in the back. Sometimes it feel like we might as well with how much we are there. But it's always fun when we run into patrons, especially junior patrons out in public, because they're like, you're not where you're supposed to be.
I think it's like seeing your teacher in the wild.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're like, what do you mean? You don't live there?
You have a life.
Right. But we are full-time employees. So we are at the library for a minimum of 40 hours a week. Oh, what about you? How long do you stay at the library?
Same.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're also really lucky because we're a small city. So sometimes we get to help with like extra events. So that 40 hours for pretty much all of us, that's our minimum.
Yeah.
And then if there's extra things going on the weekends, sometimes they'll offer like, hey, do you want to come help? And so it just gives us an opportunity to be with the community a little bit more. And that's really fun.
Yeah. And usually if Bethany and I can be there, we will be there because we have so much fun.
We do.
Like going out, and the fact that Bethany gets to hang out. She did mention that yesterday, that I'm usually the one that she works with. And I'm like, well, it's really hard to wear the favorite hat, but if I'm your favorite, she's shaking her head at me. What can I say? I'm a good time. Just kidding. All right. Well, I thought this question was really cool, and it's going to kind of give you a little bit more backstory to Bethany and I. And that is, how did you get to working in a library?
I do love this question. So this is basically my life story. No, I grew up around books. So visiting the library, I had a room full of books. There were books in the basement all over my house. My dad built a library for the family when I was a kid. And I've always loved books. But college, my first campus job, like my first work study that they offered, I got a job in the library. And so I got to help at the circulation desk.
That's
and
cool.
So I kind of got to see that world and realize like, this is where I feel like maybe I belong. And then a year later, I got hired by Barnes & Noble. And so I was a bookseller for 20 years before I retired from that company. Shout out to Barnes & Noble. I love you. And they were my family for a really long time, and they just really cemented this love of like books and literacy and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the funny part of the story, though, is I applied for the job at the Mulberry Library,
Mm-hmm.
and they picked somebody else.
Aww.
And like I was heartbroken, but I understood because the person had actually was currently working at another location within the county, and so was already familiar, had library experience. And so they said to me, if I could take you both, I would, but would it be possible to keep your application on file? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And it didn't stop me from coming in. You were still my library. I was there every week.
Yep.
And then 3 years later, I got a phone call asking me to reapply. And that was when I started, and now it's been 6 years.
Yeah.
So that's my long story about how I ended up at our library, and I absolutely love it. It's my dream job.
Yes.
So what about you?
Very happy to have you. So working in the library always felt like one of those dream jobs that like I would never get to work in. I don't know. I think my brain just said there's only so many jobs in the world that are like library, and there's just no way. But I volunteered in the library in elementary school, and I think a little bit in middle school, and I loved it. And then one of our old coworkers / now friend posted about a job opening, and my stepdad was friends with her on Facebook and saw it and sent it to me. And that was actually almost 10 years ago. So originally I started at the library when I was 20, and then I left for a year when I was, I think 22 or 23, went out into the world, and then came back towards the end of 2018. And kind of brought everything that I learned in the world in that year. And I feel like when I came back, it made me appreciate my job so much more. So I can honestly say that I've spent like my entire adulthood so far working in a library, and I don't think there's a better place that you could do that. So, because I've grown so much and I love it, and I couldn't imagine working anywhere else. So yeah, that's kind of my story.
I love it.
Oh,
Okay. Now for another fun one.
yeah.
Sarah, have you ever started and finished a book on vacation?
No, no, I haven't.
I still can't believe that.
Nope. I love going on vacation, and you guys know I go on vacation a lot. But when I go on vacation, I am so distracted throughout the entire vacation. Of course, you know, I go on a lot of cruises, and I always take books with me. Okay, get ready. I take my Kindle that usually has about 4 books on it, and then I usually take 2 books that are in print with me, and then I usually have like 1 or 2 audiobooks ready. I usually read about 10 pages because I'm like, there's so much stuff to do, and I am not one of those girls that lays out by the pool with a book. I can't. Like, the page is too bright. I can't read. I'm just like, ugh. So no, my answer is honestly no. What about you?
It's so incredible. My answer is a huge yes. I am I don't have any issues reading while traveling, right? So if we're driving or flying, I'm reading a book, I'm listening to an audiobook, like whatever. It doesn't bother me. I don't get motion sickness. But when we do travel, I am the type of person where I need a minimum of 1 book for every like 2 days, because I can usually finish a book in about 2 to 3 days. So, you know, I got to make sure I have enough. But I'm a morning person, and not everybody likes to get up as early as I do.
Yeah.
So I need something quiet that I can do while I'm just like relaxing. So whether I'm hiding in a hotel room with my Kindle trying not to wake up my family, or I'm like sitting out on a porch watching the world wake up while my family sleeps inside the Airbnb, like that's what I do. That's my thing. And any downtime, like people are having a conversation that has nothing to do with me, I get out my book. I don't care. I'm not ashamed. You know, at night sometimes when everybody's just sort of settling in, I'll get out my book. It's fine.
Yeah.
You know, I love it. I definitely am. Reading relaxes me. It's part of my vacation.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wish I could be that way, but alas, here we are. All right. Another question. Do you like working in a library?
100% yes.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that goes back to the other question too, like how we got there. And I still, it's the best job I've ever could have dreamed of.
Yeah. Agreed.
This one I thought was really funny too. Do you like to read?
I feel like that's a valid question because there are people that work in libraries that actually don't enjoy reading, and that's okay. But yes, my entire life we made we made a whole podcast about it, so I really hope we like reading. But like when I was a kid, if I got in trouble, it was normally because I was reading past my bedtime. I had that blanket pulled over, that flashlight or that book light was on, but my mom would like walk past my room and be like, yo, put the book up, kind of thing. What about you? Do you like reading?
I love reading. I know a lot of people, they tend to consider it something they have to do, right? Like work or school, those kind of things. But I always consider it something that I get to do.
Love that.
And I would say it is my number one hobby. Yeah. And I'm really lucky. Like my family, they also appreciate reading. And so there's really no judgment. So sometimes, we can all be in the same space and they don't get mad at me necessarily if I pick up my book because it got quiet and we're not doing anything. Like there's no judgment, that's how she relaxes. Let her relax.
Right.
Yep.
All right. Well, our last question for the FAQ portion of the podcast, and I'm going to ask you it. And that one is, how many books do you have in the whole library?
This is just in regards to our little branch, but it is 24,000 items.
So I think we do kind of have a book for everybody.
I think so.
I don't want to assume, but with 40,000 items in the library, there's a good possibility.
Yeah.
That there's a little something for everyone.
Especially when you consider the census. I think our actual city, there's only like a few thousand people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
We got you.
There's enough. Each of you can take a few.
Yeah.
So,
Those were really fun questions.
I know.
Love how you guys took that from like statistics to just kind of entertaining, getting to know us. I thought that was really fun.
I love that. Listen, that's how you know that someone's listening to the podcast, because they asked if you had learned how to crochet.
That is really funny.
I love that. This was so much fun. Again, we weren't sure like what the response would be, and I think we got like the right amount.
Yeah.
The perfect amount.
Yeah.
Well, I do have one more question for us before we skedaddle.
I hope it's my favorite question.
Out of here. I don't know. Could be, could not be. But that question is, what are you currently reading?
It is my favorite question. I am currently reading Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer. I'm not sure if I said his name right. It's for one of my book clubs, and the format and the pacing is very unique.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of struggling a little bit at the beginning.
Yeah.
But now that I'm kind of getting into it more and I'm getting a better understanding of like the main character and like the grandma and stuff, I'm starting to come around, and I'm really hopeful. So we'll see how that one ends up for me.
I had to read that one in school, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I totally cried.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I'll get my tissues.
Oh, that part.
What about you?
So I am actually reading the second book in the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon by Beth Brower. It's a series. I want to say it's like 7 or 9 books. Me and one of our other coworkers are reading it. And when I tell you, she is hilarious, and I strive to be her one day.
You two chuckling is like the best thing when you're reading these books.
Yeah, like just the way that she describes people, like, oh, I loathe them.
Yeah.
Like, because it's set in like 1883. So you just get the little like, the worst of the worst. Like, and I just, so funny.
Well, and I will say for these books, our other coworker, she appreciates books, but she doesn't read the way that you and I read.
Right.
And she has like blown through all of these books. And every time she closes one, she's immediately grabbing the next one and being like, this girl. And it's so funny to like see her have that moment with a book, because it's been a while since I feel like I've seen her really just love something.
Yeah. So it's fun. It's, if you want lighthearted, if you want books that you don't have to think about, I definitely recommend that series. And we do have it at the library. We're the only library in Polk County that actually has that series. So it's fun. All right. Well, if you guys have any more questions for us that you would love for us to answer, or if you just think we're the funniest people in the world and want to tell us, you can email us at themulberrylibrary@gmail.com and share those thoughts with us. You can also find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram. all of that good jazz. And so with that,
happy reading, Mulberry.